Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
Dame time is over in Milwaukee after the Bucks decided to waive him in a very surprising move. Also, the Dolphins are making some interesting offseason moves, and does LeBron James have zero trade value?
I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
The Milwaukee Bucks have waived injured star Damian Lillard and signed Miles Turner. Locked On Bucks host Camille Davis breaks down the shocking news.
None of us saw this coming. To see the report that the Bucks are signing Miles Turner, we were in a separate chat and we were both thinking, so this is a sign and trade with that contract figure that's larger than the mid-level. How are they pulling this off? And then you start to see other things develop. And I mean, let's start here. The Bucks are reportedly waiving and stretching Damian Lillard to pull off this deal. So doing that takes about $30 million off of their cap figure this year, makes the Bucks a cap space team. Before we go any further down that road, I just want to say I feel terrible for Damian Lillard. And it was certainly not the run that we all envisioned. And I think you would have to say it was a disappointing 2 years, not because of Dame specifically, just because of, you know, what transpired in these 2 years. So you feel terrible for Dame to have to rehab from this and now being informed, hey, we're waiving and stretching you, and the connotation that comes with that too of what type of player you are. We'll get to as well what that means for the Bucks cap go forward. But yeah, I want to start with that. I think you feel the same as well, that, man, this really sucks for Damian Lillard. Having said that.
Yeah, nothing but respect for Damian Lillard. I think that is a good place to start because that's going to get lost in the shuffle of the excitement of the move that was just made. Because, again, no one expected this to happen. And you just saw like Buck Social posting things of Dame and doing the June photo dump and this Dame working out, coming back from this injury. So, yeah, it sucks for Dame. Like, there's no other way to really say that. And as he has to rehab from a very, very, very serious injury at this point in his career. So I do want to tip my hat to Dame, just thank him for the time that he spent here in Milwaukee, because he did give his all. And it was a weird transition initially with everything he had going on in his personal life, coming from Portland to Milwaukee, the adjustment. And now after 2 years, they've already pulled the plug on this duo and trying to do something different. So that's a great place to start with respect to Dame and what he's done and wishing him the best going forward. But oh my goodness, like, as soon as I saw the alert come through that the Milwaukee Bucks got Miles Turner, I said, wait, what? The amount of times I said, what, out loud is it's crazy, because it was like, how is it a sign and trade? Like, how did they finesse this? And then you see they waive Dame. So they're going to have like $22.5 million or so in dead money on their books for the next 5 years to accommodate the stretch and waive of Dame.
Yeah. So I think that in itself is something to really tackle of, that's a lot of money, right? Like, we were talking ourselves into Pat Connaughton and stretching, $3 million in dead cap space on your roster. 22 million. I mean, that's larger than the mid-level exception. So we talked about going into this year that you're going to have a supermax that was dead cap space, that, maybe Dame comes back late in the year, but you have to go in with the assumption he's not playing this regular season. If he does, fine, you get some. So largely dead cap space on a supermax for the whole year. You go from that to 5 years of a contract figure that's larger than a mid-level in dead cap space is certainly a choice. I think the way to look at it for the first 4 years of this, and what is it's 3+1 basically, is that right? With the
he's a player option the fourth year.
So I mean, I guess the way to look at it is for 3 years, you're basically paying Miles Turner $10 million less than what Dame would have made on an annual basis. So you're basically taking that 22.5 in dead cap space for Dame and lumping it onto the Miles Turner contract for those 3 years. And then you still, oh, by the way, have 2 years left of that afterwards. So it makes things very interesting for this team going into that 2030 season. As we said, that's the big one with that 2031 first round pick. But I mean, this has been a remarkable job by John Horst. There is no other way to put it, to keep yourself in at least the hunt in the Eastern Conference, because you got a Brook Lopez replacement. He is younger than Brook Lopez by 7 years? Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked about it, and I suppose there's a handful of you in the audience who are probably in this live chat now and watching us now who can take a victory lap and say, go get Miles Turner. And you and I both shot that down. There's no way the Bucks can get Miles Turner, because none of us envisioned them waiving and stretching Damian Lillard to clear up that cap space. But you get a younger version of Brook Lopez. I think this is a clearly much better fit than, as we said at the top of the show, trying to talk yourself into DeAndre Ayton. Mm-hmm. We've talked a lot about spacing and its importance to play alongside Giannis. And that's the big thing with Jericho Sims. I mean, this makes it pretty obvious. There is still a great chance the Bucks are going to retain Jericho Sims as your backup big. But to do this, this makes a whole lot more sense than DeAndre Ayton, because you have that floor spacer for Giannis. You have a very good rim protector next to Giannis. I still think he's closer to Brook Lopez in play style than some of the other guys that we've drooled over in terms of their athleticism, but he's not obviously as old and not quite as slow and plodding as Brook. Yeah. So there is no way you could have done any better than this on the free agent market. So in that sense, this is an absolute home run. It's still just coming to grips with, wow, that's a pretty hefty minimum payment that you're kicking the can down the road on.
You can stay up to date all year on the Milwaukee Bucks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Bucks on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app. You're Locked On Sports Today. Coming up, we take a look at the Dolphins side of the Jalen Ramsey trade. Before we get to that, more moves are being made in NBA free agency. Ever check your bank account and wonder where'd all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com, 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Miami sharpshooter Duncan Robinson has agreed to a 3-year deal with the Pistons.
It was looking urgent. It was looking urgent there for a minute. Where we'll get into the other players that the Pistons lost, but for a minute today, it was like, okay, they have to hit this one. They have to hit this one, and they did. Duncan Robinson is going to be signing a 3-year contract with the Detroit Pistons. The first year is fully guaranteed. The second year is partially guaranteed. The third year is non-guaranteed. So it's basically a 1-year contract. They had to make it a 3-year contract so you could sign and trade. You can't sign and trade a contract unless it's at least 3 years. So they basically made it a 1-year deal with no real guarantees on the back end. So it's around $16 million a year, 3 years, $45 million. But again, like I said, only the first year is fully guaranteed. He's coming to the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons are trading Simone Fontecchio to the Miami Heat.
The Nuggets are taking a flyer on Tim Hardaway Jr. for a season.
But y'all, this has been a spectacular last 24 hours for the Denver Nuggets team. Considering all of the things that they've gone through leading up to this point. You look at the last 2 years, lacking rotation players, lacking players that can continue to add to what the starters are doing. When the starters go out, we saw last playoff, they didn't have consistent players they could go to. They had too many young players, too many rookie contracts. We've talked about this up here multiple times, especially Ryan Blackburn and I. When you have 5 to 6 rookie contracts on the roster, and none of them are lottery picks, you're setting yourself up to have to rely on extremely young, unproven players to do the job that is meant for veterans in the NBA. And so here come the Denver Nuggets. As of yesterday, getting Cam Johnson, they get cap relief, $17 million underneath the budget line that they were at previously, getting underneath the first apron. And then with that, they're able to get a player in-house like Bruce Brown. And then today, they get Jonas Valanciunas, who I haven't shared my thoughts on. Jonas is a great backup center.
Dennis Schroeder is moving on to the Kings.
Before the Dennis Schroeder deal was officially reported, the Kings made a trade this morning around 8 o'clock Pacific time, sending their backup center and big man Jonas Valanciunas to Denver to be the backup for Nikola Jokic in a trade for Dario Saric. Now, this deal saved around $5 million per year in cap space. But immediately, because Valanciunas made about $10 million, Saric makes about $5 million, so $5 million of space that the Kings opened up immediately. Now, it sounds like some or most of that space was used to ultimately give Schroeder the amount of money that he wanted, or to come up with the money needed to close that deal, because it was a little bit more than the MLE. Now, the Kings, I forgot to mention this in the last segment, one of the reasons why the Kings are trying to execute this sign and trade and move Malik Monk is if they were to do that, it would then reopen their ability to use the MLE. So basically give them $14 million to go out and get another player. So that's why they're trying to do the sign and trade again. It doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point, but that's one of the reasons why Perry was looking to do it, not just to dump Malik Monk.
The Miami Dolphins swapped Jalen Ramsey for the Steelers' Minkah Fitzpatrick. Locked On Dolphins host Kyle Krabs reacted to the trade.
My head is on a swivel. I got the notifications for the insiders. Every 30 minutes, there's some new detail. This blockbuster deal is done. The Dolphins have traded Jalen Ramsey. So my condolences to the make it work out with your toxic ex party. It's not happening. But this deal has a number of significant layers interwoven on top of each other in something that comes across as more of an NBA trade than any NBA trade that I can remember seeing in the last few years. I mean, the layers here are insane. It gets dropped a couple hours ago, and I waited because I wanted to get as many of the finer details as I possibly could. Jalen Ramsey being traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. Wonder what we got. Oh, Jalen Ramsey's getting a pay raise and going to Pittsburgh. Oh, okay. It is what it is. I'm not surprised. 3 raises in 3 years for Jalen. What are they getting back? Minkah Fitzpatrick coming back as a part of the deal. It's a player-for-player swap. You say, wow, that's really rare. The irony there is incredible. You've traded a disgruntled Miami Dolphins defensive back for a former disgruntled Miami Dolphins defensive back. Then Jonnu Smith is announced to be a part of a trade with a pick swap with Pittsburgh. And then lo and behold, is all of these things in one massive asteroid of a rock that was thrown at the NFL world on Monday, June 30th. So the full terms of the trade are as such. The Dolphins are trading Jalen Ramsey, tight end Jonnu Smith, and a 2027 7th-round draft choice. And in return are bringing back safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. Sounds familiar. And a 2027 5th-round draft choice. So you can, however ever you want to rebundle the assets, if it's Ramsey for Minka straight up flip, and then Jonnu and a 7 for a 5, or however you want to do the mental gymnastics in your head, what it really boils down to is this. For Pittsburgh, it's pretty straightforward, right? Y'all are all in, right? Black and yellow is gas pedal to the floor with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback and trading for DK Metcalf and now acquiring Jonnu Smith and Jalen Ramsey in one fell swoop. For Miami, it's the latest affirmation in my mind of how the Dolphins have gone about their business this offseason. Everything that they've done, they're giving themselves the opportunity to compete. But in the grand scheme of things, they're playing the long and the short game simultaneously. So the return of Minkah Fitzpatrick, and we're going to talk about Minkah and his role here in this Dolphins secondary, gives you a chance to compete in the here and now. But the financial implications of the trade is where the Dolphins are playing the long game. They're pooling assets. They're choosing not to pay late stage players big time money. And Jonnu Smith got a pay raise today, by the way. He went from making $4 million to $12 million on his 1 year left on his contract. So Pittsburgh gave him $12 million. And Jonnu was scheduled to make just over $4 in Miami this year. So that's another part of this, right? There's another layer to this potpourri of team building ideologies all happening at the same time. The Dolphins paid $3 million of Jalen Ramsey's salary. So the $21.5 million, he ends up getting a raise to $26.6 is the new compensation for Jalen Ramsey. Miami is paying $3 million of his outstanding balance to facilitate the trade. That's half of what I thought they were going to trade in a vacuum of Ramsey of a pick, right? And they bring back Minkah Fitzpatrick at 15.5. But they offload the 21 that was scheduled for Jalen Ramsey. The 4 that was scheduled for Jonnu Smith is 25 minus $3 million that they have to pay is 22. I'm not a math guy, but I can pull that one off. So 22, and they're bringing back, and 22 and change, and they're bringing back 15.5. So the Dolphins, from a cash spend perspective, are saving about $7 million in cash. What do you do with that $7 million? I would assume you're looking at veteran cornerbacks now. It's been reported, I believe Omar Kelly's reported, the Dolphins are calling around about tight ends, looking for another trade opportunity. I'm sure by the time I hit publish on this show, there's going to be another transaction elsewhere, because that's how it happens in Miami land, right? I remember when they moved from 3 to 12 and back to 6, and what a day that was. If I would not at all be surprised if this ends up being another experience like that, and there's a couple of shoes that fall shortly after. But at least now the Dolphins have the clarity on the financing element of this, what they're saving. It's $7 million in cash. So they offload Jalen, they offload Jonnu, they pay $3 million of Jalen's salary. So those two guys combined, there's still a savings. And then you bring back Minkah Fitzpatrick to fill what's going to be presumably a pretty big role in your secondary.
Stay up to date all year on the Miami Dolphins by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Dolphins on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, LeBron James might not have any trade value. If LeBron James ends up wanting out of LA, are there any teams that would be willing to give up a haul of players and picks to get him? Locked On NBA host Matt Warren Hayes discuss.
There's very few past tense terms in the statement, but it feels very past tense. So I think there's one idea, which is like, oh, he's pressuring the Lakers. I'm like, the Lakers already feel pressure. They have to put a team around Luka. And a lot of this to me is not about like the Lakers competing for a championship, which I think is the Lakers fan approach to this. This is about a power struggle. They shipped out Clutch client Anthony Davis in the cover of Night without talking to LeBron, Clutch, or Davis. and they have made it very clear, like, we are building around Luka. LeBron's not willing to give up just like control. He's LeBron James. And as long as he's in this league, he's going to be LeBron James. So he's going to want to have that kind of influence. And if they're not including him, if he's not a partner with the Lakers, which was the deal that he signed with them, then I think he's probably going to look for somewhere where he can have that control. LeBron is never going to be a guy that's just going to be like, yep, just here to do my job. That's not who he is. He's LeBron friggin' James, Hayes.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting thing because, like, LeBron has had so much control in LA and it's gone the way that it's gone. And clearly now they have to restructure around Luka. Like, I would think that LeBron would understand the technicality behind that and why that has to be done. But if LeBron still does want some control here in the tail end of his career, I don't know if that is going to be with the Lakers going forward. New ownership on top of that, a new direction for the team. So if this is built around LeBron wanting the level of control that he's had before, I just don't know if that's going to be. I don't know if it should be there in LA anymore. So if this turns into LeBron ended up wanting to be out of LA, that's going to be quite a plot twist that I don't think many people expected coming into this offseason.
Jake Paul is now ranks number 14 by the WBA at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., making him eligible for a world title shot. That's right. The influencer could soon be fighting champ Gilberto Zurdo Ramirez. Like it or not, and a lot of people seem to not, the YouTuber turned boxer's title run is officially sanctioned. If you're catching this episode after hearing your favorite Locked On show, make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. Also, if you're a new subscriber to Locked On Sports Today, we are here for you with the biggest stories in sports every day. Coming up, are there any more splashes to be made in NBA free agency? So at least until tomorrow, stay Locked On Sports Today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.